Just the thought of it sent equal amounts of adrenaline and dopamine coursing through his body like the most amazing rush a man could feel. He stood. He watched. He waited. He liked to watch. He knew all the places. The alleys, the corners, the broken-lit doorways, the places where the gaslight didn't reach, where shadows swallowed you whole. No one noticed him. No one ever spoke to him, stopped him, looked twice at him. And that was just the way he liked it. He blended. He vanished. He watched. He had the patience of a hunter. Cold, still, coiled. But inside, rage, a quiet, pulsing hatred, endless, bottomless. God, how he hated. But he could wait. He knew how to wait, even when the thrill pressed hot against his skin, even when the anticipation buzzed like static in his blood. He could feel it now, close. Not quite there, but close. A high rising like ecstasy, a rush at the edge of release. Not yet. Not quite, but soon. His fingers twitched, his mouth was dry, his head tingled with the promise of it. He watched, he waited. His time would come. Again.
Mary Jane lit a cigarette outside the Princess Alice on Commercial Street, her coat collar turned up against the cold breeze and the sharp stink of the city. The noise was relentless. Cartwheels clattering on cobblestones, shouts from street sellers, the occasional bark of a dog. A blur of people moved past in both directions. From across the street, someone caught her eye. Lucy Slade. She stepped off the curb without hesitation, weaving through traffic like it was second nature. A drayman cursed as he yanked his horse to a halt to avoid her. A cab nearly clipped her skirts. Mary Jane frowned as Lucy reached her, slightly breathless and nervously glancing back the way she came.
"You all right?"
Lucy asked over the noise, her voice nearly lost beneath the din. Mary Jane studied Lucy.
"Yeah, you?"
Lucy ignored the tone.
"I wanted to ask, is Caleb okay?"
Mary Jane narrowed her eyes, defensive.
"Not overly well, what's it to you?"
Lucy bit her lip, her hands fidgeting with something in her pocket.
"Because of Tommy? What he did. I'm sorry, he shouldn't have laid into him. Caleb only asked if I was all right. That was kind of him."
Mary Jane shrugged, looking away. Lucy hesitated, then pulled some money from her pocket.
"This is for him. Please, just give it to him, would you?"
Mary Jane looked at the money, then up at Lucy with a hard expression.
"What's this meant to be? Compensation?"
Lucy flushed.
"No, it's just I feel bad. He didn't deserve that. And I don't really trust you, if I'm honest, but I want him to have it."
Mary Jane's stare sharpened.
"You don't trust me, people in glass houses?"
"No,
Lucy admitted.
I don't. And I've seen enough to know not to trust too easy. But I can see Caleb's a good soul. And Tommy, he's not usually like that. He's been on edge. Ever since I got taken."
Mary Jane blinked.
"Taken?"
"Kidnapped."
Lucy said quietly.
"Couple weeks back, Tommy thinks Macca was behind it."
"Macca?"
Mary Jane said, frowning.
"Why would he?"
"I shouldn't have said anything."
Lucy interrupted, suddenly looking like she'd said far too much.
"We only came up from the highway to find out who turned over the Black Swan. That's it. But things have got messy."
Mary Jane took another drag on her cigarette, watching Lucy closely.
"You're from the highway? Whereabouts on the highway?"
"Does it matter? I don't like women like you."
Lucy said plainly.
"I don't trust you. But Caleb didn't do anything wrong, and I don't want to feel guilty about what happened to him."
Mary Jane took the money slowly and stuffed it in her coat pocket.
"He'll get it,"
she said flatly. Lucy nodded once, then turned to go. Mary Jane watched her cross back over the road, vanishing into the stream of people and horses like she'd never been there at all.
Down the dark, odorous alley, thick with rot and the stench of piss and waste, Mary Jane picked her way over slick cobbles. She found the crumbling doorway she was looking for and gave it a quick knock before pushing it open. The air inside was no better than the alley, dank, close, and sour. A single stub of candle flickered from a broken bottle on the floor. In the far corner, on a rotting cot stuffed with straw, lay Caleb. His face was a mess of bruises, one eye near swollen shut, and every breath seemed to come with effort. He stirred at the sound of the door.
"Who's that?"
He squinted into the gloom, struggling to focus through the dark and the pain. Mary Jane stepped into the meagre light and knelt beside him with a faint smile. Caleb let out a breath of relief.
MJ, how are you?
A sight better than you by the looks of things,
She said gently.
You any better?
He forced a grin that made his split lip weep a little.
Yeah, be back dancing in no time.
They both knew it was bollocks, but she smiled anyway.
Room's a bit shit.
She said, glancing around. Caleb chuckled, then winced, clutching his ribs.
I've known worse. Then again, I've known better.
Oh yeah?
Mary Jane raised an eyebrow.
Used to the high life, are you?
Caleb gave a hoarse laugh.
Well, if a Newgate cell counts.
Mary Jane managed a small smile but didn't joke back.
Best Macca could do at short notice, I think.
She reached into her coat and pulled out the money Lucy had given her. Without a word, she laid the money on the edge of the mattress. Caleb stared at it, then up at her.
Where's that from?
Mary Jane shrugged, keeping her voice even.
A woman who felt bad said to give it to you for being kind.
Caleb frowned.
Lucy.
Mary Jane didn't answer, just patted his shoulder gently.
You just get some rest, yeah?
He nodded, too tired to argue.
Are you still on for that job with the sweatshop tailor?
Mary Jane studied Caleb's broken form and contemplated the question.
Dunno, I'll think about it. You just get better.
She stood and turned back to the doorway, the sour air clinging to her as she stepped out into the alley again, leaving Caleb alone with the candlelight enough that might buy him another day or two of survival.
P.C. Gallagher had been working long hours. He'd questioned hundreds of people over the past week, Hanbury Street, Thrall Street, and Flower and Dean. He and his colleagues had trudged through nearly 200 lodging houses, hovels and slum dwellings, all to no avail. It wasn't until a shunter from the city force caught up with him on Commercial Street that something new surfaced.
Keep your eyes peeled for a dodgy-looking geezer,
The city man said.
About 40, 5'6", skinny, dark complexion, grizzled beard and moustache, walks with a limp. He attacked a doxy with one arm.
Gallagher, mentally drained, blinked at him. He's only got one arm?
No,
The officer snapped.
she had the one arm. He pulled a knife on her.
Gallagher filed the description away in his overworked brain, making a note to jot it down in his book once he got back to the station. It was late. He was tired. A tea from the coffee stall at the corner of Commercial Street and Whitechapel Road would be a godsend. He'd just about had enough. But as he neared the stall, he heard the shouting, commotion brewing. "All I bloody need," Gallagher muttered, rolling his eyes. Then it clicked. The limp, the scruffy look, the bloody attitude. This was the bloke. Had to be. Within minutes, the man was under arrest and being frog-marched to Lehman Street. Still limping, still protesting, still trouble. Gallagher sighed as he watched him hauled away. Maybe now, he thought, I'll finally get that tea. And maybe, just maybe, a bloody minute's peace. Johnny Upright was the senior man on duty that night, and as the suspect was led to the cells, it was him who escorted the man down. The suspect had clearly had a few too many, and according to Johnny, he'd slipped on the stone floor and banged his head. That's what Billy told Abeline the next morning anyway. Abeline took it in without comment. He'd seen it all before. These weren't Sunday school teachers patrolling Whitechapel, and the streets had a way of roughing up more than just the criminals. If this Ludwig character had pulled a blade on a one-armed doxy, then he wasn't going to lose sleep over a bump on the head. More than likely, he'd earned it. The man was of German descent, in the country just over a year, and by all accounts quick to flash steel when challenged. That alone made him a decent candidate for further scrutiny. Abeline decided to press the magistrate for a remand, keep Ludwig in custody a while, buy time for himself, Reed, and the lads to dig deeper. And as the inquiries continued, the more they dug, the more plausible it all sounded. The background, the behavior, even the proximity. It all added up. Until it didn't. At the inquest into Annie Chapman, a new fact emerged, a detail that changed the picture. According to the medical testimony, it was likely that both Chapman and Nichols had been throttled first, choked into unconsciousness or death before the knife ever came into play. That threw a spanner in the works. Ludwig, for all his menace, wasn't known for strangling. He pulled blades fast and wild. He slashed and stabbed in rage or panic. Cold, controlled throttling? That wasn't his style. Now Aberline had doubts. A nasty bastard Ludwig might be, but was he the bastard? Zeb was 30, but felt 60, and was fit to drop after 18 hours of slog. His hands were bloodied, cramped, every joint aching, and in 4 hours' time he'd have to go through it all again. He longed for rest, just a few hours of it. At least he had a bed, even if he had to share it with his wife and the baby. His daughter, 13, and his son, Ronnie, 8, curled up on a wool blanket by the fire in their single rented room. He trudged home through the alleys, barely seeing them. The shapes in the shadows didn't look at him twice. They could tell by the slope of his shoulders he was no good to them. Not worth dipping, not worth garroting. No coin, no life of value. He passed the 10 bells. A couple were at it in the street. The woman, bonnetless, clearly one of the dubious class, was drunk, shrill, lashing out at the man who tried to soothe her.
"I hate it when you're like this, Mary Jane,"
the man pleaded.
Well, fuck off then.
She yelled. Zeb shook his head, just as he thought. Yet, in the pit of him, he knew her rage. He felt it every day. A life of shit, and no way out. He passed along Dorset Street into White's Row, where 2 drunk men shoved each other on the verge of a fight. A toothless hag, no more than 30, though her years were worn double, shrieked encouragement. Her dress was gaudy but filthy, stockings torn, wooden clogs clattering on the cobbles as she danced around the men. Zeb didn't slow. He slipped past and turned into a rookery, the wooden gate clattering shut behind him as he ducked beneath an arch and dragged himself up 3 flights of steps to a rickety door. Inside, lit only by the dim orange glow of a single candle and dying embers of an open fire, Maggie looked up from her work, her hands stiff and caked with glue. She offered him a faint smile. He gave back a weary half-smile and dropped onto the stained mattress that sagged over the bed frame, pulling at his boots. His 8-year-old son Ronnie lay, still awake.
"All right, Dad?"
Ronnie asked from his blanket by the fire.
"Leave your father be."
Maggie told him sharply.
"He's been working."
Zeb didn't answer. He stared at the damp, peeled plaster, then lay back, dead with fatigue. Maggie set aside the half-finished matchboxes, picked the flakes of glue from her fingers, and lay beside him, careful of the sleeping baby between them. Their daughter Anna, 13, was already curled in slumber. She didn't ask if Zeb needed anything. She knew he had, at best, 3.5 hours before the day claimed him again. Ronnie shut his eyes, mind racing. He wondered how long it was until Sunday, when his father might finally speak to him like he used to. The baby stirred, then cried, a thin, desperate wail. Maggie gathered him up and moved to the corner, trying to feed him at her breast. She winced. She was dry. Too many hungry mouths, too little food. What nourishment she had left, she had already given to the children. Maggie dozed in the chair, the baby limp in her arms. Zeb stirred awake and sat up. The church bell tolled the half-hour. Half alive, he dragged on his boots, then sat hunched, fighting to pull himself into the day. His eyes drifted towards Maggie.
"Have they collected?"
He faltered, his throat tight around the words.
"Have they collected her yet?"
Maggie shook her head.
"They need to. She's been in there 2 days now. Can you see someone about it?"
Zeb lowered his gaze to the grimy boards at his feet. In the cupboard drawer across the room, his 10-year-old daughter lay still. The sickness had taken her quick. She had been bright, bonny, a joy. Now she was a body waiting to be removed. In the rookery, it was nothing unusual. That did nothing to dull the knife in his chest. He rose without a word and went to the door. Another day's drudgery waited for him.
"Can you please?"
Maggie's voice cracked behind him. He paused, hand on the latch, his back to her.
I'll try.
Then he slipped out, closing the door softly.
There was an air of hostility about the streets as dusk gave way to night. The gaslighters were out, and the market traders and costermongers were packing away for the day. P.C. Kemp was on stationary duty on Commercial Street until 10 o'clock, when P.C. Gallagher would take over. Kemp noticed an extra tension in the streets. A fight had broken out outside the 10 Bells, and the whistles of police could be heard ringing down the road. But Kemp stayed put. He hated stationary duty, only moving when absolutely necessary. Still, it gave him the chance to study the atmosphere, and tonight it was markedly different. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but there was a weight, a simmering anger. Whitechapel always had its share of misery and menace, every day a hand-to-mouth fight for survival. But this was different. The usual animosity toward the police had sharpened, and Kemp knew full well some officers didn't help matters. He was nearing the end of his shift when a woman he recognized, only by sight, came down the street. She was the wife of a costermonger. Kemp found it strange that she was out alone, and she didn't seem in a hurry or on any clear errand. She passed him once, then again. The second time, Kemp felt compelled to speak.
"Should you be out so late at night, miss?"
She stopped, smiled faintly, then shrugged.
"I like the night air."
Kemp frowned.
"Not safe, if you hadn't heard."
The woman looked at him like he was from another world.
"You've been a shunter down here long, Constable?"
Kemp gave a wry smile.
"Long enough."
"I'm a mother of 4, married to a costermonger. We live in one room of a shared house down White's Row. Ever tried living on the streets with a family, Constable? Ever tried going to the workhouse? Being split from your husband and your kids, just to survive?"
Kemp shook his head.
"No, I haven't."
The woman smiled.
"Well then, with this lunatic on the rampage, business is down. We haven't made enough for rent or food. So..."
She gave another shrug.
"When you're a wife and a mother, you do what you have to do to keep the family together."
Kemp finally understood.
"You can't keep your family together if you're dead."
She didn't miss a beat.
"Then catch the fucker."
"We do try. I've been on 14-hour shifts, 6 days a week, since Chapman."
The woman nodded her acknowledgement.
"I guess we all do what we have to for the best, then."
Kemp hesitated.
"How much are you short?"
The woman eyed him, uncertain.
"I beg your pardon?"
I said, "How much are you short for your rent?"
Kemp reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 shillings. The woman looked at the coins, then back at him. She let out a dry laugh.
"You haven't quite got the hang of this, have you, mate?"
"How do you mean?"
Kemp asked.
"Normally you lot want a freebie. See it as a perk of the job. We obliged to keep from being thrown in the cells for the night."
Kemp said nothing. He still held out the money. The woman looked at it again, and then took it.
"I will, if you don't mind. There's not much dignity or pride in being poor down here."
"Is that enough to keep you off the streets for tonight?"
She nodded and looked away. For a moment, Kemp thought he saw emotion breach her hard-as-nails exterior. She slipped the coins into her pocket, turned, and scurried across the road. Then she disappeared down White's Row. Kemp checked his pocket watch. 9:30. Not long now till Gallagher arrived.
Ringer's was packed as usual, all noise, sweat and stale beer, and Mary Jane wasn't convinced this was the best place for what Caleb had in mind. Sure, some pubs were out of bounds to him now he was back on his feet, but surely there were quieter, less obvious places to talk business. She nursed a half-finished beer. Her head still throbbed from the gin-soaked night before. She couldn't even remember getting home, only Barney's nagging voice lecturing her about how the streets ain't safe. He was beginning to really get on her nerves. What he needed was a job, preferably one with long hours so he'd shut up. The doors opened. Mary Jane glanced up, expecting Caleb, but it was Hutch. He tipped his forelock. "Hello, gorgeous." She gave a tired smile.
"All right, handsome."
"Drink?" he said, heading toward the bar. She shook her head.
"You're all right, mate. taking it easy after last night.
He nodded and moved off. Mary Jane drained the rest of her beer. Looked like Caleb wasn't coming. She checked her pockets, enough for a baked spud at least. The doors opened again. This time it was Caleb, back on his feet, if not fully recovered yet, and with him a scruffy, unkempt man with a full beard and a shabby, wide-awake hat. Mary Jane gave him a quick once-over. Brilliant. More trouble.
Nearly gave up on you,
She said as they approached.
I had enough shit off Joe last night.
Had to wait.
Caleb replied, nodding toward the scruffy man.
This is Aaron.
Mary Jane offered a polite smile.
All right?
But Aaron just glared. She gave Caleb a look. Caleb shrugged. Aaron sneered.
You told me she was young.
Mary Jane's eyebrows shot up.
And up yours too, mate?
She stood, ready to walk out. Caleb caught her arm, placating.
Easy, he didn't mean nothing. His English is just shit.
Like his attitude.
She snapped.
I told you, Caleb.
Aaron said, his Polish accent thick with contempt.
I do not like women of the unfortunate class.
Mary Jane let out a sharp laugh.
Firstly, mate, I ain't on the game. Secondly, look at you. You're hardly the king of fucking England.
Caleb rolled his eyes.
All right.
Aaron's eyes burned.
You look like a prostitute.
And you look like a cunt.
Mary Jane practically grabbed her glass to throw it. Caleb threw up his hands.
Enough, Aaron. Get the drinks. We'll talk business.
Aaron glared, but took the shilling and stalked toward the bar. Caleb turned to Mary Jane.
You want one?
She nodded.
Gin.
Caleb handed Aaron another coin. This time the Pole snatched it without a word. Mary Jane sighed. Another night on the gin. Sod what Barney had to say. Caleb leaned in.
Forget him. He's got information worth hearing.
Great,
Mary Jane said dryly.
Easier than rolling a drunk sailor.
What would be?
His boss carries a key every Friday, regular as clockwork. Aaron reckons someone's going to mug him one day and steal the key.
So? Key to what? His heart?
She said, unimpressed.
The key to a safe with a shitload of money in it.
Mary Jane's eyes were flat with apathy.
Guess I'm just fed up with wankers like him. If I spent 12 hours a day for 1 and 6 while my jaw rotted, maybe I'd hate everything too.
Caleb nodded quietly.
I know, Mary Jane.
Up yours, Caleb. I don't know why I even agreed.
Equal three-way split.
He cut in quickly.
He supplies the mug. You get him insensible. I rob the key. He gets into the sweatshop and robs the safe. We all walk away richer.
Yeah, and I'm the one he remembers when the shunters come calling.
That's not going to happen. You plead ignorance.
Yeah, right. I'll get hauled before the magistrate, or shoved in an alley by the shunter to prove my innocence another way.
Caleb blinked, surprised.
No.
Mary Jane fell silent. Rage simmered behind her eyes. Caleb realized she was dead serious. Aaron returned with the drinks. He slammed the gin down in front of Mary Jane. She stared at it. Then in one swift motion, threw it in his face.
Fuck you, pal!
She roared and stormed for the door. Heads turned. Mary Jane snarled at the onlookers.
What the fuck are you staring at?
And stormed out of the pub. Caleb let out a long breath and stared at Aaron, drenched in gin and fury.
What is wrong with her?
Aaron snapped, wiping his beard.
You still want to roll your boss?
Caleb said flatly.
Yes, but I told you, I do not like prostitutes.
Caleb looked at him like he was an idiot.
And who do you think charms your boss? The Salvation Army?
Aaron shrugged.
Exactly, so keep your bloody opinions to yourself. And for the last time, she's not on the game.
Mary Jane sat at a corner table in the Blue Coat Boy, back to the window, mood still simmering. She stared into her next gin. The barmaid was serving behind the bar, scowling like usual. Wonderful. What the hell is her problem, Mary Jane thought. She took another drink. The church bells chimed 4. Good. She had a couple hours before Barney got home. He should have some money at least. The door opened. Caleb's head appeared scanning the room. His eyes landed on her. She glared.
What do you want?
A word.
She sighed, slumped, and shrugged.
Not sure I'm interested, May.
He came in, closely followed by Aaron. Mary Jane rolled her eyes and deliberately turned away from them. A rare shaft of sunlight slipped through the window, stretching across the dirty table before her, an odd sight in Dorset Street, where the tall lodging houses usually smothered the light. Caleb sat opposite her. She didn't even look at him, just slid her empty glass toward him.
Gin!
Caleb nodded, handed the glass to Aaron. This time, Aaron went to the bar without scowling or arguing. Caleb smirked. Mary Jane glared.
Funny?
You're a stroppy little madam, aren't you?
She tried to hold her scowl, but cracked into a reluctant smile.
Piss off. Can't a girl make a point without you taking the piss?
Caleb leaned back.
I learnt a long time ago, you don't have to like the people you work with.
He glanced to the bar. Aaron was waiting patiently as the barmaid poured the drinks. Caleb lowered his voice.
We all want the same thing, Mary Jane.
She looked at him warily.
A bit of relief from our shit lives.
Macca sat at the table in quiet conversation with Harry Caleb, still hurting, but at least back on his feet, and Donny from Crossingham's lodgings. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation.
I'm not sure heading down there mob-handed's the smartest idea, boss,
Harry said, shaking his head.
We're not,
Macca replied, smiling coolly.
We're just going for a quiet pub crawl to celebrate my birthday.
Harry raised an eyebrow.
You think they'll believe that?
Don't care,
Macca said.
We're not going down there to cause trouble, just to have a drink with my mates. If they don't like it, that's their problem.
Caleb, still new to Macca's inner circle, decided to speak up.
If either of the Slades catch a whiff of something off, they'll make the first move. That's what happened when me and Mary Jane showed our faces.
Macca grinned.
We'll be ready. I'm not looking for trouble, but if it comes to us, I won't be standing there with my hands in my pockets. This is still my manor.
Caleb nodded, gently nursing his still bruised ribs. Harry cracked a grin. Donny gave a short laugh.
Besides,
Macca added,
I've got an old mate doing me a favour.
Harry let out a chuckle. Caleb's eyes widened in sudden recognition.
Not Jack O'Brien?
Macca nodded once. Caleb leaned back, cautious.
Won't that make it obvious? Won't they think the first hit was your doing too?
Macca's smile faded. He fixed Caleb with a steely look.
I don't care what they think. I've had enough of this shit. They've pushed too far.
Caleb held up his hands.
Fair enough, Macca.
Harry leaned in.
I've got scores to settle too, Caleb. Figured you might.
Caleb's expression shifted to a slow grin.
Jack O'Brien definitely livens up a night out.
Macca stood, his voice calm but charged.
Then let's make sure this is a birthday they don't forget.
Inside the Black Swan, night. The pub was packed and rowdy, full of laughter, spilled beer, and lewd songs shouted over the din. The air reeked of smoke, sweat, and ale. It was the sort of night where the noise alone could hide a murder. In the corner near the bar, Macca and his boys were in high spirits. Pints were raised, jokes flew, and even Harry cracked a rare smile. Caleb leaned back in his chair, bruises sore and limbs still aching, enjoying the moment more than he expected. Donny was mid-story, drawing laughs. By the front door, Mickey stood guard, arms folded, eyes sweeping the room. He wasn't drinking. He was watching, always watching. Behind the bar, Gabe and Lucy poured pints fast enough to keep the mob fed. At the far end of the bar sat Tommy, not drinking, not speaking, just glaring. His stare was fixed like a blade on Macca's table.
Oi, are you going to do some fucking work, or sit there all night like a grumpy fucker?
Gabe barked across the bar. Tommy didn't flinch, just shot him a look sharp enough to kill. Gabe raised 2 fingers at him and turned back to the pumps. Tommy's eyes drifted back to Macca's group. He called out to Lucy, who'd just finished serving a tray of gins. She came down his way, wiping her hands on her apron. Tommy nodded towards the corner.
You recognise any of that lot?
Lucy looked over, took a moment, then shrugged.
Only the one you beat half to death the other week.
Tommy leaned to the side for a better look, then grunted.
Yeah, didn't clock him at first. You reckon he's back for more?
Lucy bit her tongue. She knew exactly what she wanted to say, but she also knew Tommy's fuse was soaked in oil. One wrong word, and he'd light it just to see something burn. Safer to say nothing at all. She shrugged again, turned and went back to work. Tommy kept watching, face like stone, knuckles tight around his empty glass. The pub was busy and no one noticed as Jack O'Brien slipped through the doors, silently enraged by what? Even he wasn't sure, but also exhilarated. He'd had a shit day at work and was enjoying the thought of taking it out on someone.
I want no trouble in here,
Tommy said, his voice flat, humourless. The Irishman gave him a slow once-over and grinned.
You'll get no trouble from me unless you go looking for it, pal!
Tommy didn't blink.
Make sure it stays that way.
Jack O'Brien's eyes widened, the smile deepening like a crack in stone.
Is that so?
That's when Tommy saw it properly for the first time. The open coat, bare chest beneath, the defiant swagger worn like a second skin. A chill rippled through him, not from fear exactly, but from recognition. This was him, the shirtless Irishman, the one people still spoke about in wary tones, the unpredictable force who kicked off the chaos during the robbery. The man who didn't just fight, but tore through a room like a storm. The man no one could quite stop or forget. Now he stood in Tommy's pub, all charm and menace under a coat he clearly didn't need. Tommy felt the weight of it settle on the room. The stories were real. And now he was in the middle of one. O'Brien scanned the room with barely contained contempt. The raucous laughter, the clinking glasses, the bodies pressing together in drunken merriment. It made his skin itch. He hated people having fun. Hated the noise, the warmth, the casual ease. Somewhere deep inside him, warped and unnamed, was a belief that their joy was aimed squarely at him, mocking him, laughing behind his back. He didn't know where the feeling came from. Maybe he didn't care. It was just there. His eyes drifted to the corner where Macca held court, a familiar face in a sea of strangers. O'Brien respected Macca, trusted him even, something rare for a man like him. That trust kept him in check, mostly. Then he saw Caleb, the little bloke from the Horn of Plenty, Mary Jane's mate. O'Brien remembered him well. Caleb noticed the look but didn't flinch. He met O'Brien's stare and held it. He didn't feel fear anymore. A slight smile of recognition passed between the pair. At the table, Macca was thinking, wheels turning behind narrowed eyes. Things were spiraling. He could feel it. The old way, face to face, fists and fury. It wasn't working like it used to. He wondered if there might be another way, a smarter way. Then he smiled, sudden and sharp. He leaned into the table, lowering his voice.
Been to a rat baiting night lately, boys?
They all shrugged. Harry winced.
Not exactly popular with the toffs, Macca.
That's the idea,
Macca said.
But it brings everyone out. The curious, the crooked, the careful, all of them. Let the dog see the rabbit.
You mean rats?
Caleb said dryly. Macca grinned.
Yeah, big ones, small ones. Doesn't matter.
He turned toward the bar and caught O'Brien's eye.
Can't cage what's meant to be wild,
he muttered to himself. As if on cue, O'Brien moved. He turned and shoved a man beside him hard in the chest. The man protested, and O'Brien answered with a clenched fist. Pints crashed to the floor. Shouts rang out. Tommy swore. Gabe rolled his eyes and reached for the broom. Lucy was already moving, pail of sawdust in hand. Mickey crossed the floor like a bullet, pushing through the crowd just as a second punch landed. The Black Swan erupted, not into chaos, at least not yet, but into the kind of dangerous electricity that crackled. And Macca sat there in the corner, watching, waiting, smiling.
Ronnie sat staring at the cobbles, lost in his own thoughts, until a voice nearby cut through.
You all right, mate?
Mary Jane had seen the boys take the piss out of him, which had made her memories of her own turbulent youth rise from a well-forgotten past. He looked up. The woman had that distinctive red hair and a clean white apron he'd seen before down Commercial Street. She was smiling at him, not in mockery like the boys, but in a way that made him feel noticed. Mary Jane felt a tingle of pity for the boy, shoeless, with blackened feet, and sporting a pair of grimy trousers full of holes and held up by a single shoulder brace. Ronnie nodded, unsure what to say.
You look right miserable, mate,
she said gently.
You'll have to learn not to let the other boys push you around.
They're my mates,
Ronnie muttered.
Some mates?
Her eyebrows shot up. He gave a small, reluctant grin.
Supposed to be.
Her grin spread wide, brightening her tired face.
That's better. Don't let the bastards grind you down. My cousin always told me that.
Ronnie half smiled again. Something in him eased. She crouched beside him, careful to keep her skirts from the muck.
You live round here?
Ronnie nodded.
Mum got angry because I messed up a matchbox. Started an argument with my sister.
His voice was flat.
Ah, mums do get cross,
she said softly.
Lot of pressure being a mum, and the rent don't pay itself.
I know.
Her face softened.
Just you and your mum and your sister?
He shook his head.
Dad's always working. Only got one sister left now.
There was clear sadness in his voice. Left. Mary Jane knew the weight of that word. She didn't press.
Still, you're luckier than some, having family about you.
Ronnie nodded again, though his solemn eyes betrayed the truth. She saw it. The rent, the hunger, the rows, crushing children just as surely as the parents.
Ronnie?
The shout cut through the street. Ronnie froze. He knew the voice. His mother came striding up, apron stiff with glue, hair in disarray, face hard as stone.
You.
She spat at Mary Jane.
You scum bitch, leave him be.
Mum, she wasn't doing nothing. We was just talking.
Maggie ignored him, glaring at Mary Jane.
He don't need to be talking to the likes of you.
Mary Jane stayed quiet. She'd met enough people full of anger to know better than to argue. Words only fed the fire.
Come on,
Maggie snapped, jerking her head. She shot Mary Jane one last look of contempt and turned away. Ronnie followed, but halfway down the street he looked back. He gave Mary Jane a small smile, shy but grateful. She winked at him, lips twitching into a gentle grin, before turning and walking on her own way.
Toby and Dan were on their rounds again, sliding through the darkest alleys and shadowed cobbled streets, slipping between patches of gaslight and darkness. A few horse-drawn carts rattled past, iron wheels clattering, drivers hunched against the chill. They drifted into a narrow tobacconist's shop, its window fogged and glowing faintly yellow. Toby stepped to the counter and rang the brass bell.
Ollie, you about?
A few moments passed. Then a figure emerged from the back room. It wasn't Ollie, it was a larger, heavier man, calm, still, imposing in the kind of way Toby hated, quiet, certain, and dangerous. It was Macca. Dan leaned against the wall, unaware anything was wrong.
"Hello, sir,"
Macca said with a shopkeeper's polite voice, almost mockingly.
"How may I help you?"
Toby's eyes narrowed.
Is Ollie in?
"No, sir,"
Macca replied.
"I'm filling in for him."
Toby frowned.
Me and Ollie have an arrangement.
"Oh?"
Macca raised an eyebrow.
"What sort of arrangement would that be, sir?"
He pays me. We don't break his shop up.
Macca chuckled, a deep, confident sound.
"You?"
Toby's temper flared. He pulled the knuckle-duster from his pocket and slammed a fist down on the counter with a thud. Macca didn't flinch. He just stared back, eyes cold and unblinking. He could see straight through Toby's act.
"You see,"
Macca said casually,
"I run a shop on Dorset Street. A couple of geezers came in the other day while I was out. Demanded protection. When they didn't get it, they smashed the place up."
Toby shifted on his feet, heart beating harder. Still, he tried to play it cool.
Should have paid up then, shouldn't ya?
He raised the knuckle-duster slightly, more show than threat. Macca smiled.
"So it was you, then?"
We don't go down Dorset Street,
Toby said, jerking his head toward Dan.
Not us.
Macca's gaze shifted to the boy, who suddenly looked a lot younger. The tough kid swagger gone, replaced by wide eyes and uncertainty.
"Who's he, then?"
Macca asked, nodding toward Dan.
"Your rent boy."
Fuck you.
Toby snapped, voice sharp with shame. Macca grinned wider.
"No, seriously. You look suited. I'm sure you'll make a very nice couple."
Toby leaned in, rage simmering.
You don't shut the fuck up, you're gonna get it.
Macca's smile vanished.
"No, shit for brains,"
he said softly, voice suddenly cold and steel-hard.
"You don't fuck off right now. I'm going to chop your balls off and feed 'em to the crows."
The room went still. Dan didn't move. Neither did Macca. Toby held the stare a moment longer, then slowly backed off.
You tell Ollie, I'll be back to sort him out.
"You don't seem to be getting the message, big boy. You ever hassle Ollie again or his family, I'm going to find you and shove an axe handle up your arse, chop your bollocks off and throw what's left of you in the fucking Thames. Are you understanding the situation now?"
Without another word, Toby turned and strode out of the shop, Dan scrambling to follow. Macca watched the door close.
Good.
he said under his breath. A moment later, the still badly bruised Harry appeared from the back room.
I take it that wasn't them?
Macca asked. Harry shook his head.
Be your age, Macca. Am I seriously going to be turned over by those two?
Macca shrugged mockingly.
I don't know, Harry. You are getting a bit slow and podgy in your old age.
Podgy? You cheeky fucker, Mac.
Macca laughed.
Where's Caleb?
Harry eyed his boss.
He's following, just to see where they're holding up.
Macca nodded in acknowledgement. Caleb pulled the collar of his coat higher around his bruised neck and kept a few paces back. It wasn't hard to tail them. Toby wasn't exactly subtle, and the boy kept turning round every few steps like he was sightseeing. Amateurs. They moved down a narrow passage behind Pelham Street, past boarded-up windows and stinking bins, before slipping into a basement-level door beneath a derelict butcher's. Caleb lingered, counting to 30, watching for shadows in the windows. No movement. He edged forward, knees aching, ribs screaming, but adrenaline held him upright. He knelt by the door and pressed an ear to the wood. Inside, muffled voices. Toby, angry, complaining about the shop. The boy asking questions. Then another voice, Paddy's, low, dismissive, laughing. So that's where they were holed up, not exactly a fortress. Caleb backed off and ducked into the alley opposite, crouched behind a water barrel. He watched the door another 10 minutes, just to be sure. As he turned to leave, he clocked someone watching him from across the street, a flicker of a figure, cigarette glowing in the dark, and then gone. Caleb's heart rate spiked. Had he been made? He doubled back, disappearing into the maze of Whitechapel alleys, ribs throbbing, breath sharp in his throat. Time to let Macca know what he'd found, and to tell him someone else might be watching too. The Red Lion in Batty Street was not one of Mary Jane's usual haunts. In fact, she and Caleb had reasoned she'd never set foot in the place before, and that was exactly what they were counting on. No one here would know her by name, and with luck, no one would remember her again. The landlord, a heavy-set fellow called Guy, had never laid eyes on her. The same went for the patrons, the Friday night regulars propped along the bar and huddled at the small tables. It was better that way. Moses, the tailor, was said to drink here most evenings after work and always had the key to his safe about his person. At least, that's what Aaron had told them. Mary Jane stepped inside with a flicker of trepidation. She didn't know how this landlord handled his late-night trade, whether he turned a blind eye to the side business of the streets like most, or whether he ran a tighter, more self-righteous house. She scanned the bar. She'd only seen Moses once before, but he was easy to pick out. A small man of about 50, with a receding hairline flanked by thick mutton chops. Depending on the night, he might wear a hat, but Aaron had said he rarely bothered in here. Sure enough, she spotted him straight away at the bar, hunched over his glass. According to Aaron, he had a weakness for a certain kind of girl. Mary Jane moved to the bar and stood alone, while the barman poured her a gin. Out of the corner of her eye, she watched Moses talking with a broad-shouldered fellow at the far end. She didn't make a move. Not yet. She'd promised Caleb she wouldn't try to get close until he was in the room. Caleb was always late, and she was already glancing at the double doors, muttering under her breath about it. The doors swung open at last, but it wasn't Caleb. Instead, in strode an extravagant-looking gent, handlebar mustache, wide-awake hat, the kind who liked to be noticed. He spotted her, smiled, and tipped his hat. Mary Jane gave him the barest curve of her lips, then immediately regretted it. He took her half-smile as an invitation.
Oh, fuck off,
she murmured under her breath.
I'm not here for you.
But the man hadn't heard. To anyone who didn't know Mary Jane, the absence of a bonnet and the cut of her dress might suggest she was looking for company. Should have borrowed a bonnet, she thought grimly.
Hello, my dear,
the man said as he reached the bar.
How are you this fine evening?
The accent caught her off guard. American.
Are you lost, mate?
She replied, her tone dry. It wasn't the first American she'd met in Whitechapel, but she decided a little sharpness might drive him off without provoking anything worse.
No, my dear, I am a citizen of the world,
he said, doffing his hat. Mary Jane gave him a slow nod.
Explains why you talk like a twat, then.
He only smiled, meeting her eyes. Oh no, she thought. This is all I bloody need. She was about to tell him outright to clear off when Moses approached, drawing up beside them.
Well, well, Mr. Tumblety,
Moses said, his tone like a blade.
I was hoping you'd be in.
Of course, Moses.
The American fawned.
What can I do for such a fine gentleman as yourself?
Moses's eyes were flinty.
That rancid bottle of shit you sold me, to cure all known ills, you said, made my wife puke her guts up for 2 days.
Oh, surely not, Moses. My good man. It is made of the finest ingredients. Perhaps it was something else. A virus, maybe. Your wife.
Moses cut him off, leaning close.
You're lucky I don't get my friend here.
He gestured to the hulking man at his shoulder.
To take you outside, beat you senseless, and make your guts for garters.
The false smile dropped from Tumblety's face. He fished in his pocket and produced a crown, passing it over with a forced civility.
If you're not satisfied with the product, Mr. Moses, you may have your money back.
Moses snatched the coin, shot Mary Jane a quick, cold glare, and returned to the other end of the bar with his protector in tow. Tumblety turned back to her, his earlier confidence gone.
Sorry, my dear,
he murmured. Producing a bottle of the dubious tonic from his coat, he gestured towards her drink.
Would you like to try some of my excellent product? Guaranteed to give it an extra oomph.
Mary Jane gave a thin smile.
Nah, that's all right, mate.
She knocked back the last of her gin, set the glass down, and added,
I'm off to meet a friend.
With that, she left the Red Lion without a backward glance. Mary Jane strode down Batty Street at a clip, boots striking the cobbles, and slowed just as Caleb turned the corner.
Where the fuck have you been?
She demanded, breath misting in the cool night air. Caleb blinked, looking momentarily wrong-footed.
Had something to sort. Thought I said I'd see you in the pub.
Mary Jane exhaled sharply.
Yeah, well, I think there might be a change of plan.
He studied her face.
How do you mean?
She took a breath, weighing how much to tell him.
The geezer's got a minder. Big bastard, too.
Caleb's eyes flickered with irritation.
Aaron never said nothing about that.
Mary Jane snorted.
Well, he wouldn't, would he? He's a fucking knob.
Caleb went quiet, thinking it through. Mary Jane watched him, head tilted.
So what now?
She asked.
Might need a bit of help.
He admitted.
You still want to go ahead with it?
Oh, God, yeah.
Caleb said without hesitation.
I ain't passing up a job like this. Aaron reckons his safe is loaded.
Mary Jane rolled her eyes.
And that's supposed to mean something? Like I said, the bloke's a fucking knob.
Caleb gave her a wry smile.
You're just too bloody cynical, girl. That's your trouble.
Too cynical for down here?
She shot back.
You taking the piss?
His eyebrows lifted.
Maybe you're right.
One thing I will tell you.
She went on.
That Moses fella seems a bit of a bastard, so maybe I won't feel quite so guilty about rolling him.
Caleb grinned.
Good girl. I told you. It's dog eat dog. He'd eat you for breakfast if he could.
Mary Jane gave him a look, half amused, half warning, and the two of them drifted out of Batty Street, already turning over the next move in their heads. Teddy No Legs swept the road outside the shop for a pittance, paid by the tight-fisted owner whenever he remembered, which wasn't often. He'd once been an easygoing soul, but lately that nature fought hard against a growing bitterness. As he worked, he'd watch the two-limbed stroll past with the nimble ease he remembered from his youth, back when he too could walk without thought or effort. The memory stung. The worst days came when his pay never arrived. Sometimes he'd grit his teeth and get through it. Other times the depressive mood set in, and a few drinks would tip him over the edge. Then the rage came out. He'd unstrap his wooden legs and lay waste to the place, not his proudest moments, and always followed by shame. So when Mary Jane approached with an offer to make some real money, he didn't need much persuading. He liked Mary Jane. She and her friend Caleb had a way of making it seem almost noble, that sometimes it was right to get angry, to smash things up. Especially, they told him, if the target was some fat-bellied rich bastard bleeding his workers dry for his own gain. Jack O'Brien didn't need such excuses. Smashing things and people was his preferred pastime. For Mary Jane, he'd do almost anything, so long as his wife never found out. The plan was simple enough. Teddy No Legs would start the commotion, keeping the bar staff and hired muscle busy. O'Brien would handle the minder with relish. While the chaos unfolded, Mary Jane would take Moses by the arm, all concern and innocence, leading him out into the back alley. There, Caleb would be waiting to crack him and lift the key to the safe. Aaron, meanwhile, would already be at Moses's sweatshop, ready to crack the safe and empty it before anyone knew what had happened. At least, that was the plan. The Red Lion was heaving when Mary Jane walked in. Caleb was already at a corner table with Teddy No Legs, the Caribbean's patois rolling in a warm, jovial tone as he talked about the money they'd soon have in their pockets. Caleb, though, sat stiff, scanning the room, his mind on the plan. Mary Jane ordered a gin at the bar. Moses and his hulking minder were in their usual spot. She kept her distance, waiting. Then the double doors swung open and O'Brien stepped in. Caleb tensed. Mary Jane almost smiled. This was going to be interesting. There was something primal about watching two brutal men lock horns. Caleb caught her eye, gave Teddy the wink, and slipped out through the side door to wait in the alley. Mary Jane sidled along the bar until she caught Moses's gaze. Let's see if Aaron was right about his taste in women. Moses smiled. Maybe he was.
Where's your American con-man friend tonight?
He asked. Mary Jane shrugged.
No friend of mine, mate. I pick my friends more carefully.
O'Brien had already clocked Moses's minder and drifted near Teddy's table. Teddy began unstrapping his legs. The signal. Teddy exploded, bellowing about the bastards who'd ruined his life, swinging a wooden leg into the nearest table with a crack. Glass flew. The bar staff and hired muscle rushed in to deal with him, exactly as planned. O'Brien peeled off his coat, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Everyone who knew his reputation stayed to watch. Those who didn't, and had any sense, made for the door. Moses's minder stepped forward, shielding his boss and Mary Jane. O'Brien grinned and moved in. He lived for this, the crunch of fists, the rush of blood. It was the only time he felt truly alive. Teddy's rage was different, focused. Smashing the landlord across the jaw with a wooden leg felt righteous. When the pub's hired muscle tried to grab him from behind, the other leg caught the man full in the face. The place erupted.
Fucking bastards.
Teddy roared, laying into anything within reach. His voice was raw, almost animal. Two barmen lunged for him, but Teddy ducked, swinging his other leg into the first man's knee with a sickening crack. The second caught the edge of a table in the ribs and went down gasping. O'Brien, bare-chested, stepped forward with that dead-eyed grin that made hard men nervous. Moses's minder planted his feet, fists up. For a heartbeat, the pub froze. Then O'Brien exploded forward. The first punch landed, snapping the minder's head back. The man barely staggered before returning fire, his fist slamming into O'Brien's jaw. The pub's patrons roared. They went at it like wild dogs, fists, elbows, knees, smashing each other against the bar, toppling stools, sending mugs and bottles clattering. Blood was on the floor within seconds. Teddy, meanwhile, had the landlord by the collar, battering him across the face with a leg so hard the man's nose burst in a spray of red. A couple of regulars tried to pull him off, but Teddy's roar sent them stumbling back. The place was a storm now. Men shouting, women screaming, boots scuffling, the air thick with spilled beer, blood, and sweat. Mary Jane used the chaos like a curtain. She leaned in close to Moses, her voice low and urgent.
Don't know why, but violence makes me so hot. Doesn't it you?
Moses's grin was greasy, distracted by her touch. The back door of the Red Lion banged shut behind them, muting the roar of the fight to a muffled, frenzied hum. The alley was narrow and rank, with the smell of rotting vegetables and piss. Moses was fumbling with his trousers when Caleb's shadow came out of the darkness. The thud of the kosh was solid and final. Moses let out a grunt and folded, his head bouncing once on the cobbles. Mary Jane's eyes darted towards the pub. The fight inside was peaking. A crash of glass, a chair smashing, men bellowing like bulls. Then came the sharp, urgent shrill of police whistles.
Come on, hurry the fuck up,
she hissed. Mary Jane dropped to her knees and started to remove Moses's boots.
What are you doing?
Caleb asked incredulously.
Get fucking good money for these boots.
Caleb shook his head in disbelief. His hands rifled through Moses's pockets, turning them inside out. Coins clinked to the cobbles. No key. He swore, flipped the man over, patted him down again. The whistles grew sharper, closer. Boots were pounding somewhere down the street.
Caleb!
Mary Jane snapped.
Hurry the fuck up!
His hand closed around cold iron.
Got it.
They bolted. No time for stealth, just the slap of boots and the rush of air in their lungs. They ducked into a spider's web of side alleys, cutting sharp corners, dodging between piles of rubbish, the shadows swallowing them whole. At the far end of Batty Street, Aaron stood in the gloom, jittery. He stiffened at the sound of boots, ready to bolt, until the shapes of Mary Jane and Caleb appeared. Caleb tossed him the key without breaking stride. Aaron didn't waste a breath. He was up at the sweatshop window, smashing the pane with his elbow and wriggling through like a ferret. The seconds dragged. Somewhere far off, a copper's voice barked orders. Caleb kept to the shadows, eyes on the street. Mary Jane leaned against the wall, heart hammering, the distant chaos of the pub still ringing in her ears. A dull clunk inside. Then Aaron's face at the window, grinning, followed by the scrape of a single heavy sack sliding across the floor. Then he dropped it out. The sound of coins shifting inside was a song to Caleb's ears. He helped Aaron out, and together they hefted the sack, pausing only to listen. The other end of Batty Street was all shouting, whistles and running boots, but their end was still, silent. They didn't speak. They just melted into the night, sack in hand, leaving the stink of the Red Lion and the wreckage behind them.
Barney was lying on the bed when Mary Jane eased the door shut behind her.
"Where have you been?"
Was the first thing out of his mouth. She froze for a second, her hand still on the latch. The night's work, the chaos, the shouting, the pounding of boots as they'd fled, was still buzzing in her head. It weighed on her in a way the Radcliffe Highway never had. Maybe back then it had been the relief of escaping the French Mason close, the rush of freedom that dulled the nerves. But now she just felt hollow. Barney pushed himself up on one elbow, watching her closely. He'd been around her long enough to read the signs.
"You all right?"
He asked, a crease in his brow.
Yeah, why wouldn't I be?
She replied, not meeting his eyes.
"Been working?"
he said, the tone almost an accusation. That made her look at him, not with shame, but with a sharp, tired glare.
Not in the way you think.
Barney stared at the boots in Mary Jane's hands.
"Where'd you get them?"
Mary Jane looked at them, quickly thinking of a plausible story. She shrugged.
Just found 'em and thought I'd sell them to Macca.
Barney pushed himself upright, more curious than accusing, his voice echoing her words back at her.
"Found them? What you been doing then?"
She gave a small shrug, turning away from him to stare at the low shimmer of the fire and the single guttering candle.
How much you get from work?
She asked.
"From work? Couldn't get any. You?"
She rolled her eyes at him, lips curling into a faint, weary smirk.
Nothing till tomorrow.
Barney's expression shifted, a thread of worry creeping in.
Tomorrow? What the hell you doing?
Mary Jane's brow tightened.
Don't start,
She muttered, trying to shut it down.
I'll get some money tomorrow.
He opened his mouth to press her, but she cut him off with a warning glance.
Don't ask, 'cause I'm not going to tell you.
Barney lay back down, turning his face to the wall in a sulk. Mary Jane stared at him for a beat, then rolled her eyes again.
Fine, I'm going next door. Anything you want?
No.
The word came out flat, cold.
Suit yourself.
She pulled the door closed hard enough for the latch to clatter. The chandler's shop was still open, the faint reek of paraffin and vinegar drifting out into the street. But Macca wasn't there. His lad was behind the counter, leaning on it like he owned the place.
Hello?
Mary Jane said. Macca's boy grinned, same cheeky face as his father. She was gutted. She'd hoped to see Macca, maybe get some credit. His son, she suspected, would take one look at the ledger and turn her down flat. She held up the boots.
I was going to see if Macca wanted to buy these.
Macca's son shook his head.
You'll have to come back tomorrow and see him. He's out tonight.
Mary Jane nodded an okay, understanding.
Don't suppose I could have something on tick, could I?
She tried.
I'll have money tomorrow.
John's grin widened, and he gave her a wink.
You can pay in kind if you like.
She gave a short laugh, thinking he was joking, until she saw the way he held her gaze. Serious. Mary Jane was a little taken aback. Like father, like son, she mused. When she slipped back into the room, she hoped Barney was asleep. He wasn't, still facing the wall.
What took you so long?
He asked, voice flat.
Oh, you know me,
she said, tired of the constant questions. Then, with a flash of mischief,
I've been fucking the next-door neighbour.
Barney rolled over sharply, eyes narrowing. She shook her head, trying not to smile, and dropped fish and potatoes on the table.
I'm only joking. You hungry?
He nodded slowly, still not entirely sure if she was winding him up or telling the truth.
Next morning, Mary Jane produced the boots and slammed them on the counter of Macca's shop. Macca stared at them.
It's a pair of boots.
How much?
Macca laughed. Harry, who had been stacking shelves, joined them at the counter.
Are you stealing punter's boots now, Mary Jane?
Mary Jane gave an ironic sneer.
How much?
She repeated. Macca looked them over.
Lock your door at night, Harry. Otherwise Mary Jane will sneak in and nick your boots.
Fucking ha. How much?
2.
2? Is that all?
Macca stared at her, raising his eyebrows.
Harry, pass me the rent arrears book.
Mary Jane rolled her eyes.
All right, 2,
she said reluctantly. Macca took 2 shillings out of his till and placed them on the counter. Mary Jane picked up the money.
Next time I may take my business elsewhere.
Is that a promise?
Said Macca. Mary Jane gave a sarcastic smile and left.